What would you say if a cop walked up to your window and your hand was already moving for your license? That one move can make you talk too soon, reach too fast, and help the officer control the whole stop before you even know why you were pulled over. The question you ask first can slow everything down, protect your rights, and stop you from making the dumb mistake almost every driver makes. Before I reveal the exact question, hit subscribe so you can find this video again when you actually need it on the side of the road. And tap like right now because this could save you from turning a warning into a search. Here's the reality. Most drivers think the first job is to grab the license fast and look cooperative. But the smarter move is to keep your hands visible, stay calm, and ask one short question before you start digging around your car. In this video, you're going to learn the exact question to ask first, the safe way to reach for your wallet without looking suspicious, the line that tells you whether the stop is over, and the sentence that shuts down the search request that usually comes next. Let me show you exactly how a normal traffic stop turns into a fishing trip and how you stop that from happening to you. I'm also going to break down the court cases in plain English so you know why this works. No lawyer talk, no confusing terms, just simple lines you can remember when your heart is pounding and your brain goes blank. Now here's why this matters so much to you. The first 10 seconds of a stop shape everything that comes after. If you start fumbling, reaching, apologizing, explaining, and talking too much, you make the officer's job easier. You give them movement to watch, words to use, and nerves to label as suspicious. Most people have no idea how fast a basic stop can shift into questions about drugs, guns, warrants, where you've been, who you were with, and what's inside your car. The stop begins with a traffic issue, but if you handle the opening badly, it can become an investigation. I've analyzed over 200 body cam videos, and the pattern is always the same. Drivers think they're helping themselves by acting extra nice and extra talkative. Really, they're giving away control. You do not need a speech, you need a plan. The first tactic is asking the reason for the stop before you ever reach for your wallet. Here's exactly what you say. Officer, why did you pull me over? Word for word. Memorize that line. You say it with both hands where the officer can see them. You do not reach first. You do not start digging under your seat. You do not pull out your phone. You ask the question while staying still. Listen closely because this is critical. This question is not about arguing. It is not about refusing your license. It is about slowing the stop down and making the officer state the reason before you start moving inside the car. That protects you in two ways. First, it lowers the chance that your movement gets read the wrong way. Second, it tells you what kind of stop this is before you start talking. If the officer says you were speeding, now you know the lane. If the officer says your tag light is out, now you know the lane. You are not guessing. You are not blurting out excuses before you even know the claim. Bad way. Most drivers say, sorry officer, my license is in my pocket, I wasn't drinking, and I know I was only going a little fast. Then they admit facts the officer had not even mentioned yet. Good way, smart drivers say, officer, why did you pull me over? Then they learn the reason first and stop themselves from talking into trouble. Watch what happens when you do this right. The officer approaches, you keep your hands visible, you ask the question, the officer gives the reason. Now you know what this stop is about, and you can respond in a controlled way. That matters because once you know the reason, you stop filling the silence with random guesses. You stop saying things like, was it the lane change, or I know I rolled that stop sign, or I only had one beer. Those guesses become free evidence. Your own mouth gives the officer more than your license ever could. This is 100% legal. You are allowed to ask why you are being stopped. In fact, that question lines up with the basic rule that police need a lawful reason for the stop. This comes straight from Supreme Court rulings. In a case called Delaware v. Prouse, the court said police cannot just stop cars for no reason and demand papers whenever they feel like it. In plain English, if you are being stopped, there is supposed to be a reason. Your question makes that reason come out early. Defense attorneys use this exact line in court because it helps show what the stop was really about from the first seconds on camera. And let me be clear about one thing. After you ask the question, if the officer asks for your license, registration, and insurance, you comply calmly. This tactic is not about refusing. It is about not rushing into movement and not rushing into admissions before you know what is happening. That small pause can save you from a huge mistake. Think you could stay that calm during a real stop? Let me know in the comments, because most people practice this 0 times before they need it. The second tactic is how you get your license without making yourself look dangerous or shady. Here's exactly what you say. My license is in my wallet. Is it okay if I reach for it now? Word for word. If your registration is somewhere else, say that too. My registration is in the glove box. Is it okay if I reach for it now? That line is simple, but it changes the feel of the whole stop. You are telling the officer where your hands are going before they move. That matters more than people think. Former police officers have confirmed this works because officers are trained to watch hands first, not faces. If you suddenly start digging near your hip, under a seat, or inside a console, you may think you're being helpful. The officer may think you're hiding something or grabbing something. You do not want that confusion. You want clear, slow, boring movement. Boring is your friend during a stop. Bad way. Most drivers say, hang on, it's around here somewhere, and start reaching all over the car. Then the officer gets tense and the whole stop gets worse. Good way. Smart drivers say, my license is in my wallet. Is it okay if I reach for it now? Then the officer knows what you're doing and why. Here's why this tactic is powerful. It keeps you from looking nervous and sneaky. It also stops you from giving the officer a reason to claim you were making furtive movements. That phrase just means suspicious hand movements, and once that gets written in a report, everything gets harder for you later. Your simple act of searching for your wallet can suddenly become a story about hiding contraband or reaching toward a weapon. You do not want your normal movement turned into a suspicious movement. So you narrate it before you make it. Here's the reality. A lot of roadside trouble starts with bad movement, not bad law. People think rights only matter in court. No, rights matter in the first seconds when you decide whether to move first or speak first. If you keep your hands visible, ask why you were stopped, and then announce your movement before reaching, you look calm, predictable, and safe. That helps you a lot. There is also a legal reason this matters. In Pennsylvania v. Mimms, the court gave officers a lot of room to think about safety during traffic stops. In plain English, courts understand that officers worry about sudden movement. That means you should not feed that worry. You do the opposite. You remove uncertainty. You say where your document is, you ask to reach, then you move slowly. You are protecting yourself and lowering the chance of a bad misunderstanding. That is smart, not submissive. And if the officer acts annoyed that you asked first, ignore the tone and stick to the plan. Your job is not to win personality points. Your job is to get through the stop safely and cleanly. The third tactic is the question that tells you whether the stop is still about the traffic issue or if the officer is trying to hold you longer. Here's exactly what you say. Am I being detained or am I free to leave? Those exact words. You do not use this at the first second. You use it after the officer has your documents back or after the warning or ticket part should be done and the questions keep going. This is where so many people lose the plot. The officer hands back the license, then says, hey, one more thing, or mind if I ask a few questions? That sounds casual. It is not casual. That is often the bridge from traffic stop to criminal investigation. Here's the trick they don't want you knowing. If you never ask whether you are free to leave, you may stand there acting like you have no choice, even when the original reason for the stop is already over. Bad way. Most drivers say, sure, ask whatever you want. Then the stop keeps growing and the officer starts digging for bigger problems. Good way. Smart drivers say, am I being detained or am I free to leave? Then the officer has to make the situation clear. Watch what happens when you use this line the right way. If the officer says you are free to leave, the stop is over and you should leave. Not chat, not explain, not stay to prove you are innocent. Leave. If the officer says you are being detained, then now you know this is no longer friendly small talk. Now you stop volunteering. Now you tighten up. Now you protect yourself. This line matters because of a Supreme Court case called Rodriguez v. United States. In plain English, that case says a traffic stop is supposed to last only as long as needed to handle the traffic reason, unless police get a real new reason to keep it going. So if you were stopped for speeding, the stop is supposed to be about speeding, not a random 20-minute interview about your life. Your question forces the issue. Either the stop is done, or the officer is claiming a legal reason to keep you there. Legal experts agree this is your strongest protection once the traffic part should be over. It turns a fuzzy situation into a clear one, and clear is good for you. Fuzzy helps the officer, clear helps you. If you've made it this far, you're serious about protecting your rights. Show me by hitting that like button, because the next move is the one that keeps a bad stop from getting even worse. The fourth tactic is what you say when the officer wants more than your documents. Here's exactly what you say. Officer, I do not consent to any searches, and I choose to remain silent. Word for word. That line is powerful because it handles two problems at once. It blocks the easy yes, and it stops the nervous talking that ruins cases. A lot of drivers think the big danger is the search itself. Sometimes it is, but the bigger danger is often the talking that happens before the search. You can look, I've got nothing to hide. That bag isn't mine. My friend used the car. I was only at that house for 5 minutes. Those lines feel harmless. They are not harmless. They build the officer's suspicion and lock you into a story before you have time to think. Bad way. Most drivers say, go ahead, I don't care, and I can explain everything. Then they give permission and extra evidence at the same time. Good way. Smart drivers say, officer, I do not consent to any searches, and I choose to remain silent. Then they protect their space and stop feeding the case. This is 100% legal. You can refuse consent to a search. You can choose not to answer extra questions. That does not mean the officer will always stop. They may claim another reason and search anyway, but if that happens, you have not helped them by saying yes. That matters later. A lot. In a case called Schneckloth, Bustamonte, the court said consent can make a search lawful. Plain English again. If you say yes, you may be giving away one of your best protections. So do not say yes because you feel nervous or guilty or rushed. Say the line, then stop. And if the questions keep coming, you do not switch into debate mode. You do not start acting like a fake lawyer on the roadside. You repeat the line once if needed, then stay quiet. Short words, calm tone. No extra story. That is how you keep a simple stop from turning into a confession session. Now let's tie the law together in normal human language. Delaware v. Prouse means there is supposed to be a real reason for the stop. That connects to your first question. Officer, why did you pull me over? You are making the officer say the reason out loud before you start moving and talking. Pennsylvania v. Mimms reminds you that officers are allowed to worry about safety during traffic stops. That is why you announce your movement before reaching for your license. You make yourself predictable, not suspicious. Rodriguez v. United States says police cannot drag out a stop longer than needed for the traffic issue without a real reason. That connects directly to, am I being detained or am I free to leave? And Schneckloth v. Bustamonte tells you why saying yes to a search is such a bad move. One nervous yes can do damage that takes months to fight. Now, let me show you exactly how this plays out in real life. You're driving home after dinner. Lights flash behind you. You pull over safely. The wrong way starts immediately. You panic. You start digging for your wallet before the officer even reaches your window. You blurt out, I know, I was probably speeding. The officer now has sudden movement and an early admission. Then you can't find the registration. You start reaching across the passenger seat, then into the glove box, then under some papers. The officer gets sharper with you. After a few minutes, the warning is done, but the officer keeps asking where you came from and if there's anything illegal in the car. You stay and answer. Then comes the search request. You say yes because you think saying no looks guilty. That one stop now turns into a full investigation. Now the right way. You pull over. You keep your hands visible. The officer walks up. Before you move, you ask, Officer, why did you pull me over? The officer says you rolled through a stop sign. You respond calmly. Then you say, my license is in my wallet. Is it okay if I reach for it now? You move slowly and give the documents. The officer runs them and comes back with a warning. Then the extra questions begin. You do not drift into friendly panic mode. You ask, am I being detained or am I free to leave? If the officer says you are free to go, you leave. If the officer keeps pushing and asks to search, you say, Officer, I do not consent to any searches and I choose to remain silent. That is a completely different stop. Same road, same officer, same you, but totally different outcome because your words stayed tight and your movements stayed clean. Next week, I'm revealing what to say when cops ask you to step out of the car and start separating you from your passengers. Subscribe so you don't miss it because that tactic can decide whether the stop ends with a warning or turns into a full roadside interrogation. So lock these 4 moves into your head. Ask why you were pulled over before you reach for anything. Announce where your license is and ask before moving. When the traffic part should be over, ask if you are being detained or free to leave. And if the officer pushes for more, refuse consent and stay silent. You do not need big words. You do not need a long speech. You need calm, short lines that work under pressure. Hit subscribe so you catch the next video before your next stop happens. Smash like if this gave you a safer plan for that first 30 seconds. And drop a comment telling me which line you're going to memorize first. Stay safe out there.